Ever since Mob Psycho 100 started airing, you guys have been asking me to analyze the OP because, wow, holy crap, you can see why. And now that the series is finally over, I can at last make you wait a couple more weeks while I work on it. There's some manga stuff in the OP that I don't want to miss, so I'm boning up on the whole manga before I write that script. And I just want to torture you, so today, in lieu of the OP, we're going to be talking about the show's equally excellent ED, all off by Refrain Boy. I'm not very good at torture. One of the bullet points on Mob Psycho 100's press sheet was its stylish incorporation of paint-on-glass animation, which is created by applying slow-drying oil paints to a sheet of glass and then smearing them to create a weird, flat sort of stop motion. It's used to great effect in the show proper to make the various spirits that Mob encounters feel distinctly otherworldly, but it's showcased in full force for the ED, which is absolutely breathtaking and blows a lot of traditionally animated shorts out of the water with its dynamic motion. It also tells a simple yet kinda touching story about one of the show's lead characters, so let's dig into that. The ED starts with a new day dawning and Reigen Arataka blinking into wakefulness with it. He briefly wakes to the curtains blowing in his room, but then he slips back into a dream. We see flashes of his clothes drying, his apartment building, and a bird flying overhead. Each fleeting dream image is wiped away until the light behind his eyelids finally rouses him. As he slowly wakes up, we fade into a shot of his room as details are gradually painted in. It takes a solid 20 seconds before we actually see Reigen move in this thing. This is a really interesting and unique way of presenting the reluctant grogginess of someone just waking up, and it does a great job of getting us into Reigen's headspace. It's also quite an impressive effect for something done by hand like this. Reigen is very slow to wake up, and the black and white palette really emphasizes the harshness of the daylight invading his room. The effect as he opens the curtains is really impressive, and not just for the actual motion. Take note of the subtle way that the animator smears the paint on his body and the room around him into a lighter shade to mimic the sunlight spilling out into the room. It gives the image a great sense of depth. And as Reigen is showering, take a second to appreciate how a bit of extra smearing is applied to his hair in order to enhance the sense of wetness in this shot. There's so much subtle detail put into every frame of this animation. I suppose when you have to work this hard to make just one frame, you may as well go full out with the quality, but it's really impressive how well they nail simple, everyday acts like shaving and brushing one's teeth. After putting away his brush, Reigen takes out a cigarette for a morning smoke, and his lack of concern for oral hygiene tells us a bit about his relatively carefree attitude. As he actually sparks up the cigarette, again, the effect of the lighting coming off of the lighter is quite impressive, as is the subtle way that the smoke is shown as distortions on the black background. And the drawn-out puff of smoke that Reigen blows serves to punctuate the effort of getting up like a long sigh at the end of a strenuous workout session. Again, this ED does a fantastic job of getting us inside his head, simply from what it chooses to show us. The airplane passing overhead creates an impression of the day moving forward and time accelerating, and indeed the pace of the ED picks up along with the music from here. Reigen puts on his suit in a confident, flashy manner, showing off that cocky side of his personality as he shifts into work mode. Then he downs a refreshing glass of water and pours one out for his plant, hinting at his nurturing side. The shot of him stepping into his shoes again conveys his confidence, both through his smooth, assured motion and the low angle that emphasizes how impressive he is. Speaking of impressive, again, the way that depth is conveyed in this art style is jaw-dropping here. It's really impressive how they managed to keep these highly detailed shoes on model as Reigen steps into them. Even the motion of something as simple as opening the door is incredibly detailed and well done. Once again, the pacing picks up as we accelerate into the light and the outside world, and again, I think that speaks to the strength of the editing and direction here, because it really sells the sensation of fighting to wake up in the early morning. It takes 40 seconds for Reigen to make it from his bed to putting on his suit, but only 15 to go from there to leaving the house as his energy level rises and each action becomes easier and quicker. By the time he's outside, things start really moving, and man, are these background animations ever impressive. Getting a good point of view shot in an anime where you're working with CG is one thing, but all of this 3D motion was rendered entirely by hand in like the most painstaking way possible, and it's something to behold. There's only one shot in which they obviously use CGI compositing to cheat when we see the railing beside the train zipping by over the river. And while it does stand out for looking a little cheaper than the rest of the ED, I'm amazed that they only cut one corner to make this thing. The whole sequence paints a very vivid picture in your mind of Reigen's daily commute with just a few carefully chosen snippets. You only really see the path to the station, the train pulling away, and a few of the things that he sees on his way into the city, yet just from that, you can imagine very clearly the whole route that he takes to get there. It's exceedingly rare to see this much care and attention paid to simply depicting the beautiful but mundane aspects of the world as it is, but that's one of Mob Psycho's strengths. The way that it imbues its crazy supernatural story with a very down-to-earth sense of everyday realism, and the fact that it's willing to spend its budget enhancing that as much as it does the fights. As the pace picks up and Reigen accelerates towards his destination, he also seems to get a little more contemplative, stopping to take in the train pulling away, the joggers at the roadside, and the cat that crosses his path instead of simply moving forward. It's moments like this that make you feel like you're seeing the perspective of a person, rather than just a camera being carried through the city. These shots also tell us that Reigen is the type to take his time and consider things. This ED demonstrates a very strong understanding of his personality. As he heads down the street, we finally hit the shot that gives meaning to the whole ED. Reigen comes up behind a young mob who quickly grows before his eyes from grade school to middle school age. And then as Reigen approaches him, the world is suddenly brought into full color. This speaks to the affection that Reigen has for his disciple. He may be exploiting Mob for personal gain, but he also genuinely cares about him and enjoys spending time with him. He's watched this kid grow up, given him principles to live by so that he can be a good person, and this shot conveys a sense of pride in who he's become. We then end on a final shot of them walking off together, Mob characteristically stiff while Reigen confidently saunters along beside him. The animation on the characters in this shot is extremely impressive both for how smooth it is and for how it captures their personalities and their body language, as is everything in this ED. But while it's less obvious here, if you look closely you can tell that they once more use CG compositing to put them into the background. None of the paint around them becomes distorted as they walk. That said, with all of these colors on display, it would have been pretty difficult to keep doing what they were doing in black and white, so I understand why that choice was made. Although it's worth noting that saving the color for the end of the ED isn't just a cost-saving measure, it also works as a thematically resonant artistic choice. It implies that Reigen's day doesn't properly begin until he meets up with Mob on his commute, one more touching indication of what the kid really means to him. Not only does this ED make excellent use of a very striking animation style, it also serves to cement the strength of Mob and Reigen's weird friendship, which is important because while it's one of the emotional pillars of the show's story, it's also easy to misinterpret as something more cynical than it is. This is the first ED I've seen in a long while that I love this much, and while Mob Psycho's OP is more than deserving of praise, and believe me, it's gonna get some soon enough, this ED needed to be held up as the example of excellence that it truly is. If you want to share your thoughts about Mob Psycho's ED or the show as a whole, you can do so in the comments below. And if you want to hear my thoughts on the show from before I became obsessed with it, you can check out this cool video that I did for Crunchyroll at the start of the season, where I analyzed the show's trailer in much the same way that I do OPs and EDs. And if you want to see even more cool videos about Mob Psycho, One Punch Man, and a lot of other great anime, be sure to stay tuned to Mother's Basement because I've got more analysis videos and a season recap coming up in short order. To make sure you catch those, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and follow me on Twitter at G0FFThu to keep abreast of everything that I'm doing. Thank you for watching, and thank you especially if you're one of the lovely people who supports Mother's Basement on Patreon. It's thanks to you that I'm able to make videos like this on a regular basis. In fact, it's specifically because we passed the $1,500 funding goal this month that I'm gonna be able to do What's in an ED videos every month from now on. You guys did good. Thank you so much for your support. I'm Jeff Thu, professional psychic, and this is my assistant, Brutal Hustler.